Hello and welcome. You're watching IndianExpress.com. So the BCCI has finally decided to suspend its contract with Vivo, that is a Chinese-based firm, for this year. Now, many see this as an outcome of the anti-Chinese sentiment currently prevailing in the country, but there is different angle to this suspension of the contract. We talked about this in detail with our sports correspondent Mihir. The BCCI has suspended its contract with the Vivo, that is the Chinese sponsor, and this decision has been taken by the BCCI. This was taken on Thursday, and this comes after the IPL Governing Council body on Sunday deciding that they will go with the contract, but suddenly it has been suspended. So, Mihir, first tell our viewers what reason the BCCI has given to suspend the contract with the Vivo.
So in their press statement, which was released yesterday, the BCCI did not give any reason. It was just a one-sentence statement saying that the sponsorship deal for 2020 season has been suspended. It doesn't go into any details. But the conjecture that is created is because of the current anti-China sentiment in the country following the clashes at Galwan Valley. BCCI has been forced. We should recall that there were multiple protests. There was a public backlash against the BCCI after their decision to carry Vivo as the title sponsor, and immediately after that, decision has come.
But on Sunday, the IPL Governing Council had a meeting and they decided to continue with this sponsorship. But suddenly, what happened in 5 days that they backed out?
So again, there has been no official communication on this from BCCI. What our colleagues have learned speaking to BCCI, what we gather so far is, like we have reported in the past, the BCCI, when the clashes were at its peak between the Indian and Chinese groups, the BCCI had called for a meeting of its governing council, the IPL Governing Council, to discuss the future of all sponsorship contracts with China, with Chinese brands rather. What has happened on Sunday is that the BCCI did not take a stand on it, and they decided to go ahead with the sponsors. That obviously did not go down well with a lot of trading communities, and even there was an affiliate of the RSS which stepped in and said that we should boycott the IPL. So all these things did happen. But Nishant, the point here is that the anti-China sentiment legally has no standing when it comes to adding such an alteration to the contract. We spoke to lawyers, and one of the former consultants of IPL franchisees and BCCI, Nandan Kamath, he told us that legally the reason to have such a clause implemented, so what they have done in a sense is triggered the force majeure clause. Now, force majeure clause, what does it mean? It basically is a clause wherein certain conditions develop which make it impossible for one of the parties involved to promise whatever has been included in the contract. Now, the underlining term here is impossible and not inconvenient. While this whole anti-China sentiment makes it inconvenient for BCCI and Vivo, it does not make it impossible. Whereas, the whole pandemic and its fallout in the sense that IPL, which was to begin in March, is starting now next month. The promise that BCCI, it's starting on September 19th.
And
the
on a
promise
different
that
venue.
BCCI, yeah, exactly. That is a very crucial point. Now, IPL Vivo paid whatever amount they paid. We'll come to that, I'm sure, in a bit. But Vivo's deal was to have IPL in India. Now that is being moved out of India to UAE, in another different country. So basically an agreement was reached that, look, you have not fulfilled two criteria which were agreed to, and hence we will not wish to continue sponsoring the event for this season, but we'll be back again next year.
So does the timeline also has a bearing on this? Because as you said, the IPL was supposed to start in March and now it's happening in September. So the viewership in March is more than September. That could be one of the reasons.
So that is assumed. That is what is assumed, in the sense that March to May is a period where there are summer holidays. Schools and colleges are shut, so you automatically have more eyeballs for a tournament. And that is a period reserved for the IPL. There is no other sporting event, major sporting event happening in the country, and nothing else in the cricket world as well. So you automatically get more eyeballs to the IPL, and that is when a lot of products also and their so that also gets affected indirectly.
Mir, also, can you give us the detail of the contract between the BCCI and the Vivo? And since this suspension has been only for 1 year, so can we assume that next year, if IPL happens in India, if the COVID crisis, subdues, so Vivo will continue to be the sponsor of the IPL?
So that obviously has not been officially said. Yes, neither parties, neither BCCI nor Vivo have said that they won't continue sponsoring next season onwards. So it is assumed right now that Vivo will be the title sponsor of the IPL next season. Now, how does that work? So when a force majeure clause is triggered, it basically means that the contract for this year has been null and void. It's not been carried out.
Yeah.
The both parties, when they mutually agree to this, when it is amicably solved, they can have a provision of considering this year as a 0 year in the contract, which means we will not execute anything from it this year, and it gives them an option when the tenure ends to add 1 more year to the contract.
So currently they have a 5-year contract. What is the duration of the contract between the BCCI?
Yeah. So in this case, Vivo acquired the sponsorship rights for IPL in 2018 for a period of 5 years, and in return they promised to pay BCCI roughly 440 crores each year.
Okay.
So obviously that isn't being executed this year. So next year onwards, it is likely that Vivo will be back as a sponsor. At the same time, one of the BCCI officials did tell the Indian Express earlier this week that they are exploring the option of extending the contract by 1 more year beyond 2023.
Okay. Thank you, Mir. Thank you for all your valuable inputs, and thank you viewers for joining us. For more news and updates, keep logging on to IndianExpress.com.